Welcome to another episode of the Vision with Execution show. My name is Adam Torkelson. My guest today, Jason Rogers, is somebody I just recently met, but who I have a lot of deep connection with already. And we align on several things in healthcare and mental health. And those are two topics we're going to be getting into today. But really quick, I'm going to introduce Jason. Jason, you've helped generate over $150 million in revenue growth across healthcare orgs, founded and exited companies, brokered medical patents, and now you're helping $1 million to $10 million EBITDA business owners sell at max value. So I think it's awesome that you're willing to come on my show. I know you're a busy guy, so thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Adam, thanks so much. I think, was it last week or a couple weeks ago when we talked, you reached out. I think you just called my cell phone, and I'm like, this is the kind of guy that I like to be connected with, in a day and age where you just shoot a text or, stalk someone on a DM forever. You just picked up the phone and called me. So I loved it. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad the old school tactics still work today.
Absolutely. I prefer them, honestly.
Yeah, man. Well, I love picking up the phone and calling people. That's one thing that I've noticed. I've got thousands of people's names in my phone at this point because I haven't changed my number or my contacts in like 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's just piling up. But randomly, somebody's name will pop into my head, and I'll feel like I should call them up and talk to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they pick up, sometimes they don't, but it's always worth the effort. So if anybody ever feels like, hey, I want to pick up the phone and call somebody, I think it's always appreciated. Just
100%. Yep, I agree with that.
So let's jump right in. Wanted to start off with somewhat of a deep question, and I know I didn't really prep you for this one, but I know you spend a lot of time thinking about progression, personally and professionally, and you spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about mental health. So we'll kind of start in that arena. So for you, who are you becoming right now? Not what you've done, but what you're building toward.
Yeah, I love that deep question. I've been able to give that some thought over the last year or so, and I'm becoming a present husband and father. I'm becoming a strategic and thoughtful business owner, but more than anything, I feel like I'm just becoming more peaceful and confident in staying peaceful, like protecting my peace, if that makes any sense.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, I've the things that I've done, it's easy to define ourselves by what we've done. And I've been very grateful for the successes that I've had, but I've also had some massive losses, incredible opportunities that I've been a part of, but then, you don't always win. So those things sometimes disrupt your peace, and you reevaluate. I'm like, oh, what did I do there? How could that have been different for me or my family? And now I'm in the season of really just trying to be more thoughtful and preserve the peace that I've created and be a more present husband and father. So
sweet, I like that. And that reminds me of a quote, actually not a quote, but something Roger Federer said after he retired. I think he was giving a commencement speech somewhere, and he was talking about his win-loss percentage. And in tennis, especially, you can be ranked number one in the world, but still only win about 52% of your points. And I'm no tennis expert, so I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly or not. Mm-hmm. But the idea is the same. He won just slightly more often than he lost, and he was ranked #1 in the world in his sport. And his secret was that he just didn't dwell at all on the last point that he won or lost, because it was just what he was going to do right now in this moment. Nothing before mattered whatsoever. And that takes a lot of effort and training and time, especially for elite athletes, but for all of us. I think I spend a lot of time dwelling on things that happened that I didn't want to have happen.
Yeah.
As opposed to looking ahead towards what I would like to see happen and living more presently. And so I really resonate with that. Now let's switch gears just a little bit, get into the healthcare side of things. You've got a pretty deep background in health systems, healthcare.
Yep.
So let's dig into that just a little bit with this question.
Okay.
What did you learn inside large health systems that most founders don't understand?
Oh, there's a lot. So just to give the audience a little bit of background, I started in med device sales, and then I realized I wanted to be on the other side of the decision-making process, and so I ended up finding an opportunity to work with UC San Diego Health in their business development side, and helping to grow and scale some of their service lines and doing service line agreements, helping just grow programs, right? So one of the things that I think founders in healthcare that may not have that experience may not realize is the amount of decision makers that it requires to make a decision at large health systems is massive. And so when you're let's say you're a health tech startup and your main target is health systems, you better plan for at least a 2-year conversation with them from like introduction to a potential close. And so I would say hunt for the whales. If you're selling to them, they're the whales, but you got to fish every day. So you got to stick your line out and try and find some other fish to keep revenue in the door, so that you don't just live or die by the whale, which is a health system. But then when you get one, as a company, as a business owner, as a founder, when you get one of those whales, you just ride it and take care of it, and build your business on it, because that's what I was able to do with one of my businesses. So I think just the expect that it's going to take a little longer than you thought, and that you're going to have to navigate a lot of different decision makers, and then people going and leaving and coming from the organization and having to reset the table a few times, but be persistent and know that it'll pan out in the end if your product is something that will be valuable to them.
That's awesome. One quick follow-up to that, because I'm in the similar space. I am trying to literally find some of these large healthcare systems for myself, our own country. So that's validation of what I've experienced myself.
Yeah.
But do you think it's worth, like you said, you have to go out and fish every day to keep some lines and streams of revenue coming in? Is it useful to do, I like to call them pilots, but essentially a small, basically whoever you can get to start using your product or service, and then just kind of build on top of that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're talking within the health system space or just in general?
Health systems specifically.
Yeah.
But if that's a general principle as well, and of course.
Yeah. I would say anytime you can find a potential long-term client that your product or business can help, and you can find them and get them to commit to trying out your product or service, a pilot program per se, absolutely do that. And I would actually recommend that approach rather than just going in hard and being like, all right, we're a smaller startup, we're a smaller crew, we're going to take on the whole UC San Diego system. Like that's a big undertaking, and it's probably not realistic. So let's say, hey, let's find a niche within that system and say, oh, we're going to help all of their, let's say urgent care centers, and not even maybe all of them. Maybe we're going to start with like 2 and see how we work with them. So absolutely, and that gets you foot in the door. It also allows you to do your best work. I'm a big believer in it's not always like the quantity of the clients, but it's really the quality. And once you do the quality, then you can scale to quantity. So just do your best work with the best client. And if your best client is a small little division within that organization, then take them on.
Sweet. That tracks for me with my experience as well. What makes a 5 million EBITDA healthcare company worth 5x versus 9x, let's say? Those numbers are sort of arbitrary, but essentially going from one multiple to a much larger multiple.
Yeah, no, let's use those numbers though, because those numbers are actually pretty realistic. So a 5x multiple is pretty standard across the board for like just a basic service company in healthcare. So, let's take my old company, for example, a medical billing company. It's pretty standard. If you're just doing the work of medical billing and coding, you have a team that does that on behalf of your clients. They collect the funds on their behalf. They get a percentage of everything they collect. It's repeatable. You don't own any software or anything that's proprietary to you. You're just a service company in healthcare. You're going to expect, probably in this market today, about a 4 to 6x. Okay. 3x if you're really small, but more realistically, like 4 to 6x. So to jump into the next tier though, like if you're looking at above that, I would say like an 8 to 11x ish. You're going to need to be in a new category, and there's even companies that get into the 15x category. But let's just say the 8 to 11 category would be more like a tech-enabled services category. So let's say I'm in that same medical billing company, but I've actually created my own software program that people are using, and so now I have my own proprietary technology. That is going to come at a higher multiple because there's technology that's owned, that's involved in the business, that can scale. So that would make the difference there. Potentially outside of jumping in the tech-enabled services category, if it's just service only, it would have to be integrated highly with maybe some other tech that is maybe not proprietary to you, but very much potentially licensed to you within your process, that really you have kind of more of a secret sauce or an edge than something else, right? So I would say just straight service multiple, and then tech-enabled service multiple really would jump.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's probably one of the best sound bites that we have on the podcast so far. So great answer. So if somebody listening right now has like a 3 million EBITDA healthcare business,
yep,
what should they fix in the next 12 months if they want a higher multiple, especially?
Well, without really seeing what this company is doing, but if they're doing 3 million EBITDA, I assume that they have a lot of their systems in place to scale up to 3 million. So where people usually get stuck is between like the 1 and 3 million. Like there's a few different like tranches, so to speak, of scale and growth. A lot of founders get stuck between 500K and $1 million. Like they just can't get up there because it takes more staff, more scale, more of a system outside of just you, the founder. And so by 3 million EBITDA, you figured that out. You figured out how to get yourself out of the day-to-day kind of you being the cog in the wheel. So congratulations on doing that. If you want to go from 3 million to 6 million, then to me, what that really comes down to is capital to scale. I think that's where you hit a certain ceiling where you need a little bit more capital to scale, or you just don't have enough whales, right? So you need a whale hunting team. So you probably have mastered really well the I can help who I can help kind of niche, and you've scaled to that up to 3 million. And then now it's like, cool, now let's scale this nationally. Do you have a national accounts team? Do you have a team that can take this to the whales of the health system, so to speak, and start whale hunting, right? Or do I not have the funds to be able to hire a national accounts team? So now, it's like the chicken or the egg. So I think once you get to that 3 million, you're probably there where you need to grow a little bit more. I would say find the capital, right? Either bring in a capital partner by potentially taking some of your chips off the table and say, I'm going to bring in a minority partner to help me to grow and scale and infuse some cash into this business, or bootstrap it. Hire one national accounts person, hire, one person that's going to help you to get to bigger conversations than you're probably not having right now. You may think you're having big conversations, but you're one connection away from changing the trajectory of your business. And so ask yourself which connection am I missing?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I wish we had enough time to go into that whale hunting analogy.
Yeah.
I think we could probably do a full podcast on just that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a really important topic that I'm pretty sure most healthcare founders don't even know is a big deal once you hit that level.
Yeah.
But I think you're exactly right. And like you said, and by the way, taking on a capital partner, that's another whole entire topic in and of itself. But
totally. And so, let me be clear, like that's not for everybody. So this is by no way like a recommendation of like what someone should do or shouldn't do. It's just ideas of, potentially how you could get from A to B. I particularly actually do like partnerships, even though I haven't always had the best ones. It's just,
right.
It's like, I grew up playing sports, and so I was a team sport guy. I never really played individual sports like tennis or golf. That just wasn't my thing. I was always playing football, basketball, baseball, soccer. So like I thrive in a team atmosphere. And so I think it just comes naturally to me to like, all right, when I'm going to start my next thing, I find, a partner that is just as enthused. And so, but that's not always for everybody, right? So if you're a individual sport guy, then you can figure out how to be successful on your own, maybe hire more consultants instead of bringing on partners, right?
Yeah. And I love sports analogies. I was a cross-country coach at American Heritage, underneath this Hall of Fame coach. And my kids are both on the track team at American Fork. And I love those team sport dynamics. But it's true that you can run faster by yourself, but you can go a lot further with a team. So it's just dependent on your own leadership and execution, really.
Exactly.
We really don't have a whole lot of time. I like to keep these about 30 minutes. But the team dynamic, that's an area, it's a good segue actually to talk about mental health. I think. So, real quick, I do want to ask you this one because I'm just so curious.
Yeah.
What does your weekly operating rhythm look like? Just spend like 60 seconds on that.
Yeah. It's changed over the last couple of years. So I wake up and I try and just have some quiet time to myself. So whether that's like just meditating or like read some scriptures or just be quiet, I go up and go upstairs. There's a room upstairs. We kind of like a living room we have, and I kind of just do that. Or so I have that time, and then I try and get a workout in. So I try and move my body, and I do that as much as I can every day. I'm not perfect, but I like to do that at least 3 to 4 times a week when I'm able. And then once I do that, my family starts rolling out of the beds, and then we kind of get our day going. I jump on my first call probably by 9 every day.
Yeah. And the reason why it ties into mental health very well, speaking from experience as a recovering addict, mm-hmm. I know that my day starts out very intentionally with my own mental health in mind. From the minute I wake up, everything is scheduled and figured out and dialed in. I've tried so many different things that now I have a really good system that works for me. And I don't know exactly your background in mental health, but for you, why is mental health important?
I was one of those people that kind of cringed and kind of like, looked at you sideways if you said the word mental health until I had my own mental health crisis myself. After I sold my company, I had a series of massive losses and betrayals that kind of took me to the darkest places of my entire life. And it wasn't even that the life around me was crumbling. It was just the inside of my brain was like telling me that I was crumbling. And until my wife was like, "You need help." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." She's like, "I love you. You need help." So I started seeing a therapist just online. And so for me, mental health is something that you need to be aware of. And it will compound negatively for you, or it will compound positively for you. So it's about compounding in the right way. And not every day is an awesome day, but we can just, as long as we're mindful and we know what we're putting into our space and our energy, that's the most helpful thing. That's what's been helpful for me. And that's why I'll plug in here. We have an organization called Here Brotherhood, based here in Utah. We do quarterly men's mental health and mental wellness retreats. And our mission is to grow a global brotherhood of support and growth through wellness practices. And so we do that and try and help people to recognize putting ourselves first is going to put us and everyone else in our space in the best place possible by making sure our mental space is clear and present.
Yeah, so this last question I'm going to ask is really geared towards founders especially. And I think you probably touched on this a little bit with your own experience with your mental health crisis, but what pressures do high-performing founders not talk about?
They don't talk about the reality. Honestly, we don't talk about the reality, the honest reality of what it takes to start a company and to scale one. And to people that don't understand, they just think like Adam, he just grew this thing and he's just successful. It's like he's an overnight success. I'm like, I guarantee you, if I ever hear somebody say that, I correct them and say that's like a 10-year or plus overnight success. Like these people have prepared and they've suffered and they have sacrificed more than anyone would even imagine to be as successful as they are. You have to be willing to give a piece of yourself to this business or to whatever venture you're trying to create. And there's disruption within your family. And so entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It's just not. There's this whole culture of like, yeah, anyone can do this. Anyone who's willing to sacrifice a piece of themselves can do it. And there's ways you can do it. And I'm not trying to say this is doom and gloom. I'm just saying that's just the reality.
Right.
You're going to have to sacrifice something, and oftentimes that's your family. And so I think they underestimate the realities of what it takes to be a founder.
Yeah, I like that. And giving a piece of yourself, I think that is more true, and it's sort of an understatement, actually, because you really have to be willing to chop off literally a piece of yourself, like go to that extreme.
Yeah.
To be successful and push through. And I like the fact that people talk about it more often now.
Yeah.
But it's been part of the culture of the startup world for so long to just
Right.
talk about the wins and the successes and the exits,
Yep.
without talking about the extreme sacrifice that it took to get there.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I'm glad you brought it up. And like I said, that was the last question that we have time for today. But
Great.
I look forward to lots more conversations. We haven't met in person yet, but we will soon. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
I make that a promise to you, Jason. We will meet in person.
I'm a luncher, so I'll invite you to lunch when I'm down in Utah County next time.
And I will be there. That is a promise.
Sweet.
So thank you so much again for your time, your expertise, and taking a little bit of time to talk about healthcare and mental health. And with that, this has been an episode of the Vision with Execution show. My name is Adam Torkelson. Jason Rogers has been our amazing guest today.